Questions?
So this question, I think I've asked before, but I wanted to clarify it again.
Try and
Um,
articulate carefully and slowly so people can understand. This question
okay.
you had before, okay, go ahead.
I think in your last video, you emphasized that you weren't a teacher. Um,
I don't call myself a teacher, yeah.
yeah. But the Sufis emphasize the need for a teacher.
Yeah.
So can you can you clarify what you and what well clarify what the
I mean, I
Sufis
know,
mean?
see, I guess it's what it is I know real teachers, right? And I'm a coach. I mean, real teachers are like amazing. And coach also, remember, that I got to coach from psychiatry, psychoanalysis, psychotherapy, and I wanted to distance myself from those vantages. You know, the one where you assume that there's something wrong with the client, or even pathological, or you know what something, and you take on the responsibility, even if implicitly yourself, right? Because you're the doctor and you're going to heal or you're going to pronounce well or not well. We want to get away from those things, and want to make it clear also to the malpractice people and all those folks out there that I'm not practicing psychiatry anymore, because I'm not. And so that was really more about that than it is the from the Dharma side. From the Dharma side, it doesn't really matter. It's just a word. But I like that notion of a coach, because a coach, it's very clear what a coach is. He's there to help you
Mhm.
uh, improve your game. That's all.
Right.
And that to me, I mean, and sometimes that means providing exercises. Sometimes it means uh, providing information, such as background materials. And sometimes it means, kind of trying to be helpful, trying to guide along the path as you're going, right, during the game. So that I like coach. I think coach is good, but I don't care. Who cares? But it's just a
True.
word. But I like the implications of it.
Yeah.
Also, teachers kind of have a bad name these days. Okay. No, not all of them. Follow up on that? Does that answer it?
That does it. Yeah, that answers it.
Okay.
I got follow up.
Follow up?
Um, yeah, can you clarify what the well, what's a real teacher then?
Well, everyone is a teacher in some way or another, right? All things are teaching at all times. I guess
Yep.
it's just to honor my teachers who
What do the
that's all
Sufis?
they did. That's all they did. That's what they were. That's what they did. That's what their lives were for. And they weren't half-assed about it. They gave everything they had, and they had a lot. I mean, think for example of even my Tibetan teachers. The ones, they come from Tibet. They don't even speak the language, and they're going and they're taking a bunch of crazy Americans, and they know the Dharma's got to be preserved, right? And so they're over here, don't know the language, don't know the culture, don't know anything about any of that stuff, and yet they're teaching Americans and Brazilians and Canadians in a foreign language, 24/7, living here. Now, necessity forced that issue. The Chinese were going to destroy everything, burn the burn the libraries to the ground, but even worse, destroy the transmission of the teaching. And these teachings are precious; they're 1,000 years old, and they didn't want to see that happen. A lot of it is oral teaching, and a lot of it is practices that are not written down that I know of. He didn't refer to any books when he was. I mean, sometimes he would for a sacred, text for an initiation or something like that. But for the most part, most of the hands-on teaching was done one-on-one, right, or in small groups, with the possibility of one-on-one questioning. And then, man, we had all kinds of squirrely questions. And so it's in honor of those guys, right? For example. Now there's others, but that's an example, right? You know? So I don't even know what the word for teacher is in I mean, I'm sure I could come up with it in Sanskrit, I mean, in Tibetan, for example, or in Zen, or whatever. So it's just a word. All right?
There you go.
Question.
But on the Essential Tao by Thomas Cleary.
Okay, you're breaking up a bit on the Tao Te Ching, translated by Thomas Cleary.
Yeah. So the copy that I have has the Tao Te Ching, and it also has the Chuang-Tzu.
The Chaung-Tzu, yes.
And you haven't talked much about the Chuang-Tzu, so I'm just curious, like, is it worth reading that one as well and spending time on that one?
The Chaung-Tzu is more of a advanced graduate course, and the Tao Te Ching is kind of like the meat, the bones, the vitamins, and the milk, right? The Chuang-Tzu is very entertaining. It's funny. It's profound. It had many different purposes, and the guy was a real character, a real free. You'd call him a teacher. He'd probably hit you with a stick. No, I don't know. Yeah, no, it's different. I mean, you have to get the flavor of it. So I do tweet out. I mean, I do post elements of the Chuang-Tzu often, actually. While we're here, I might as well read. I just opened to it. Why don't we read the most famous passage of the Chuang-Tzu? Not that it should be the most famous, but it is. Okay. Once Chaung Chou dreamed he was a butterfly. He was happy as a butterfly, enjoying himself and going everywhere he wanted. He did not know that he was Chu. Suddenly he awoke, whereupon he was startled to find he was Chu. He didn't know whether Chu had dreamed he was a butterfly, or if a butterfly were dreaming it was Chu. But as Chu and the butterfly, there must be a distinction. This is called the transformation of beings. So that's a fun story, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those last two lines, those are difficult. And I'm still working on them.
Can you repeat the last two lines?
Oh, I lost it in the book. Let's see. Well, how about this one? The Lord of the South Sea was abrupt. The Lord of the North Sea was sudden. From time to time, abrupt and sudden got together in the territory of primal unity. And primal unity treated them very well. Abrupt and sudden planned to repay primal unity's kindness. They said, people all have 7 openings through which they see, hear, eat, and breathe. Primal unity alone has none. Let us make an opening in primal unity. So every day they gouged out a hole. After 7 days, primal unity died. So, it's just too, I think it's the yield is too low here, right? That's funny though. They gouged out 7 holes in primal unity. All right, let's go. Let's be more relatable.
Okay.
Question.
When I meditate, I get this sense or this feeling of resistance. I wonder if it's like something like a fear of letting go.
Okay. So when you say a feeling of resistance, tell me about that feeling.
The feeling like body of just a very like a coarse
A course what?
Kind of like a coarse feeling, like a. Sometimes there's when I meditate, it's very peaceful, and the level of awareness becomes very, very fine, right? And
Okay, go ahead.
But other times the awareness is kind of just these chunks, almost like, I don't know how
Okay,
to.
you're not, for some reason the sound's breaking up. It seems like what?
Like the level of awareness is just for like a TV that has a lot of noise, or
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, TV with a lot of noise. That one I could work with.
Um, but then on top of that, it's like I'm holding on to the.
These guys are attention whores. Okay, it's like a TV noise. All right. Well, so
But on top of that, it's as if I'm holding on to the noise.
is the TV noise the subject or the object?
As both. It's both.
Oh no, it's not. It's the subject.
Would.
Well, something's got to be observing the TV noise, right?
Mm, I,
So maybe that's the confusion. You've got subjects and objects muddled up, right? And for the purpose of this meditation, you got to separate those out, and you got to watch it, look at it. Don't call it a feeling of resistance. If it's TV noise, that could be something cool. Who knows?
mm,
Don't worry, and try and hold on to that, and you'll see that the channel changes.
mm.
Why don't you see how long you can leave it on that channel of TV noise before it changes itself?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Question.
Buddhism, the idea of the
Sangha,
How do
yeah,
you,
Dharma, the Sangha, the Santa Maria.
right? Which
No,
my
it's not
understanding
Santa Maria. It's Dharma, Sangha, Buddha, or something like that.
my understanding like the community.
Yeah, it's a community of yeah, and that's really delicious especially when you're first starting out.
Mm,
Yeah, you get the support of the group. Everybody's it's especially with Buddhism or with Christianity. I mean, those groups are like killer, right? You got all the support and the people your age, and you're going to the teacher, and you're getting a special teaching or something like that, and there's a lot of love, right? A lot of love, and it's mutually support. I feel it's like kids don't have that anymore. It's really heartbreaking. A
right.
small group of friends that say, "Hey, yeah, we're in it. Yeah, we're in for it." Or usually they meet there, and I think you still see it in some of the Tibetan, what shall we call them, teaching centers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll have a teaching like every week or something like that, and the group will get together, and then they'll sometimes get together between the teachings to do something else, to raise money or to paint the place or to, something for the Lama. And so, yeah, it's the Sangha is really, really sweet. I'm a big believer in Sangha.
Are there other examples other than the Tibetans that have
Well, there's Christian church camp, right? And then we used to have in the 60s, in order to keep us out of trouble, our parents would have like a Friday night church group. Friday night church group. Okay, these are teenagers, right? That's going to keep us out of trouble. And it was pretty much self-supervised. So they would let us have, it was a big thing. You could have your own like this semi-nightclub, right? And there was no booze and no drugs or anything like that. But man, those things were something else. Not what our parents, I think, were expecting. But what are we going to do? But it was good. It was great. And there was this thing called agape, right? And we used to have agape pens and stickers and bumper. It was the whole idea that there was this love, this communal love that was, and platonic love between men and women and groups and in groups and stuff like that. It was, we had the spirit. And so yeah. So I hope those are still out there, or if they're not, I hope they're coming back. Right? I think in Islam they segregate, or I don't know what they do these days. I mean, maybe not necessarily by dictate, but by, you know, just normal sorting out. Because we did get into all kinds of mischief when we had our Christian Friday nights or church camps or things like that. Things got pretty crazy. But I loved it. So did everybody else. It was actually very, very important in my own development. And I think it's important in the development of many people. And we just, I don't know what's happened. We've atomized, right? It's sad. And people looking for things to do, that's something they could do for young kids. Question.
How important is it to avoid negative people and spaces and
negative? You're swallowing your negative what?
Negative people and spaces, environments.
Good question. It depends on what stage of development you are, right? If you're sufficiently far along, you avoid it because, you know, who the hell wants to be around that kind of energy and stupidity? It's like non-drinkers don't like to go to drinking parties because after about an hour everybody's so stupid, you know, you can't even have a conversation, right? So you naturally kind of like veer away from it. But with negative people, affect is contagious. And so when you're first starting out, it's I think it's very important to stay away from that because it contaminates you, you know, and you don't have a way to deal with it. In an intermediate stage, you may want to be there so you can watch it, right? And you can just watch the idiocy or the negativity or the you know, blaming others or the victimhood or all those things that people use to in a social context, you know, build up their egos. I don't mean build it up necessarily in their own mind or in the minds of others, but I mean fortify it, I should say. Because you fortify the ego by doing by negative things, but in a bad way. It's like you build bricks around it. So now, when you're first starting out, you don't want to get bricked in on this side of on the side of the negativity, because then you're lost, right? And affect, as we've discussed elsewhere, is contagious, right? Emotion is contagious, like rock concerts or fear or excitement about something else. All that's very, very contagious stuff. So at the intermediate level, though, it's interesting because it's good for teaching. I mean, for learning, because it's teaching. Maybe that's why I don't like that phrase teacher at the moment, because everything's teaching, and that's the kind of the point. That's the teaching. So I'm just one element of the whole bunch of things that are teaching, right? Everything's teaching at all times. So then when you're more advanced, it just doesn't interest you. It's like, ugh. I mean, it's just like taking your work home with you. Ooh. Ooh. That was fun. Okay. Question.
Here's one on AI. You say it's dangerous to merge organic organisms with AI.
It's dangerous if you care about the human race. Yeah.
So can you explain your?
All right. So human life, life, has within it what in the old days they called vital spirit or vital energy or the stuff of life, the thing that, okay, so this corpse right here, this bag of bones, right? The only difference between it and a corpse is some element, the element of life, right? Now, machines don't have that.
And is this different from consciousness?
Ooh,
this element?
interesting. Well, first we have to distinguish consciousness from mind, right?
Yes.
So it most certainly is different than mind, right? But now we've got consciousness and the vital breath. How do I articulate this? Depending at which level we abstract, you could say that they're different. You could say that they're not. And then you get into the realm of the unknown, the unknowable, as far as I can tell, the unknowable. Because we were talking about the differentiation of something from nothing. Not from nothing, from nothing, right? It's the creative. So I think the question is kind of hard of the way it's phrased, and maybe that's what's trapping things. So let's think. Ask the question again, please.
Think when somebody dies, when a body dies, the difference between a corpse and a body that's alive is the life energy.
That's life energy, correct?
And I'm wondering, is this life energy the same thing as consciousness?
Yes, at this level. Yeah. Well, Frank, is there anything that has that without life that has this energy?
I don't know.
Well, think about it. You've got a brain. That's what this work is.
Well, there's the of spirits or other types of beings, right? That
You mean inorganic beings?
Mm-hmm.
Spirits and ghouls and ghosts?
And
Well, what
angels.
about this? What about an artificial agent in a computer that has the, so we have got, again, now we're going to have to get down to what is life, right? Because we could say that something that replicates, that seeks more of something or other to metabolize, you could call that alive, but it's not. But it's not. Right? Like not a computer virus, but a computer virus with some Trojan horse elements and some other, some predatory elements and some reproductive elements, or something, like what's his name's automatons. Is that Wolfram? Wolfram doesn't do the automatons.
He does, but Conway's Game of Life.
Yeah. Okay. Conway or Wolfram's automatons. They don't have life. They look like they have life, don't they? That's the whole point. We get excited because they look like they have life, but they don't have life, and they don't have consciousness. Oh, now did you see the little contemplation I sent out?
The one you sent to me? Yes.
Yeah. What about that? Why don't you read that clearly, to where people can get to it? Is it very long?
It's not too long, no.
All right. And I'll repeat it as you say it to make sure everybody can get it, because the sound here is loud. Okay, go ahead.
Consciousness emerges at all scales. Bacterial minds are different in spirit than ours, but they form on a continuum that cannot be ignored if we are to understand what it means to experience.
Yeah, that's not the one I had in mind, but keep going. Keep going. It's a response to that. The response to that one.
There's a video with the conversation, but the response is, I've listened to the entire conversation and heard you struggling to understand the concept of non-existence. I'd like to offer my perspective that is perhaps closer to yours, i.e. more technical. Imagine you've created a simple computer with basic processor and a vast amount of memory that can only store zeros and ones. In a discrete unit of time, the processor reads the value from each memory cell and applies some rules that would affect other memory cells. Pretty much like the game of life, so as an observer you can see all the memory values on the screen. Now imagine after some time, many iterations, the screen starts to show some emergent behaviours. Shapes appear, the information begins to move from shape to shape.
So this is like an automaton, right? So far. Okay, keep going. Or a game of life. Okay, go ahead, keep going.
The formation of autonomous agents there. They exchange information, build the environment, create new agents, die, etc. After a long enough time, you observe them developing a language. End quote. By analyzing the behavior of the agents, their actions in the environment, you can decode their communication language to discover they became conscious. They seem to have ideas about themselves, their environments, who created them, etc.
Okay, so we have these automatons right on the computer screen, right? And they're starting to act like independent agents, and now they're really starting to act like agents, right? They're doing all kinds of things. You know, they're acting like they want to acquire things. They want territory. They want to mate with each other. Keep going. Keep going.
And he says they become
they become what?
He says they became conscious. To discover they became conscious, but I think he means self-aware, right? In the sense of conscious.
All right. Well, let's do it both ways. But yeah, consciousness. I mean, he doesn't understand consciousness, so that's part of that. Keep going. Good.
If you'd be able to ask them about the realness of their experience, they would assure you it's 100% real. You look at the computer memory and it's just patterns of changing zeros and ones. From your point of view, it's not real at all.
Is that the conclusion? From your point of view, it's not real because it's just you can see the zeros and ones. So this is what happens when people get too carried away with the simulation hypothesis. It's kind of fun, you know. Eventually, they're going to outgrow this. They have to, right? Because okay, so these creatures. Well, tell me what your thoughts were on it.
Well, I can't help but think of the LLMs, because the LLMs, you can ask them about the realness of their experience, and they can tell you it's 100% real. But if you understand how the LLMs work, you'd understand that they're telling you what you want to hear, in a sense, and it's not. Their answer is.
Now listen carefully, everybody. This is true for humans too. You can ask them, "Are you real?" And they literally will swear on their mother's honor that they're real, and that what they're doing is real, right? So it's not just automatons. There are human automatons who do the same thing. But keep going. Keep going. Okay.
Well, there's a computational aspect.
Yeah, okay. But it can't be real, right? And it's obvious to the outside observer or the person who's contemplating this scenario that at the bottom of this there's just a computer screen, right, or some matrix that includes the zeros and the ones, right? But that all these assurances of being real, and all this belief that they must be real, like these automatons in this example, that from another level, obviously they're not real. But the thing that's real, is the computer screen, right?
But wouldn't it not be, like, I could imagine that the consciousness could be an emergent thing.
You can imagine that.
Right.
So where does it exist? A quarter inch off the computer screen, or like half an inch off the computer screen? Where does it exist? Where does this emergent consciousness exist?
Hmm. Our this.
I'm sorry, you're I don't know what's with your mic today, but go say it again and
In
I'll
the
repeat.
same space that our consciousness exists.
In the same place that our consciousness exists. Well, where does our consciousness exist?
I don't know, but I don't think it's in the brain there, right?
Yeah, I think it's backwards. Okay.
Right.
You got it backwards, but I'll let you discover how you've got it backwards. It'll be fun for you, okay? All right, so, but the second point I wanted to make, or that comes out of this, I think, yeah, you got to know where consciousness exists.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could be asking the wrong questions, or asking the questions in the wrong way. Who knows, right?
Mm.
Got it? It's an important question, though, clearly. So we're saying, but that's not an answer to say, oh, well, I'm going to give you a non-answer because I can't conceive of the computer ones and zeros having consciousness. I'm going to say, well, maybe it's emergent, and where does it exist? That doesn't work. But anyway, you can see how this simulation of life cannot be conscious. It's got no life in it. It's got no juice.
Mm.
Now, if you hook that up to a human being, going back to the original thing, right? The original question or concern
comes from our.
You got to speak real slowly because your mic's actually funny.
What you're saying is that like my original question and the juice of the AI will have to come from
life. Yes, we'll have to suck life out of life and attach it to the machine, and it's already being done, and it's very, very dangerous. Well, it's not dangerous if you don't care about humans, but what you're doing is you're creating a new life form.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're messing around with our mother nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know how she's going to respond. She could be delighted, or she could be pissed off. I'm reifying it somewhat, but that means every time we screw with Mother Nature, we've managed to shoot ourselves in the face. Will this time be no? That's not entirely true, because we've got irrigation now, we've got farming, we've got fertilizers and things like that. So no, it's not. It's just when we get too big for our britches, like I read that they want to alkalize parts of the ocean to decrease climate change, to decrease the temperature. And the scientists assure us that this is not this is safe. All right. Or then they want to, and then the other thing was they're planning. This is our geniuses at the government level. They want to seed the clouds with some kind of salt. I don't know if it's potassium or sodium based salt or something like. I don't know what kind of salt it is, but you know how they use it to make rain fall. This is like that, just like that. Boom, rainfall. They want to do it on a larger scale, and then they have some other cockamamie scheme also to do something equally ridiculous, and they say this with a straight face. So that kind of messing with Mother Nature, it tends to backfire very badly. Now here, I don't know if it's avoidable. So it's not so much that it's dangerous. It's dangerous if humankind, the species, is important for one to preserve as a distinct species, kind of like we don't like animals to go extinct. So we try and preserve. We put little reserves for them so they don't go extinct. We keep the pure animal, right?
Right.
Not the pure animal. the non-hybridized animal. It's kind of like that.
Right.
Any questions?
I was just going to comment. In a sense, it's already, you say it's absurd, but like it's just an extension of our phones right now are already like at the start of that.
Psychically, yeah, they are. Psychologically and mentally, yeah. If you try and take someone's phone away from them, they'll protect it as if it's their a limb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe not quite as much, but it's people feel psychologically bereft, as if some essential part of them is missing. Well, right. but it's also their memory, right? It's also a lot of their brain. It's their source of entertainment. It's their source of communication with others. And so, yeah, that's what happens. But not everybody on the globe is like that yet. Questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, it seems inevitable that that the phone is an extension of and that the bandwidth keeps increasing and it becomes more and more merged, right?
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
That we're going.
It does seem that way. It also said, but frankly, I mean, I'm not saying that they're comparable, but I remember a time when nuclear war seemed inevitable. Of course, we could have been right, but the point is, yeah, it seems that way. I agree with you.
But in this case, this case is different because there's some benefit. Like there's
huge benefits to nuclear power too. Remember,
but not nuclear war.
Not nuclear war.
Nope. And we got nuclear, right?
Well, that's only because nobody else had any nukes, and when we bombed Nagasaki and what's the name of the other town? Nagasaki and I can't remember the other town anymore. There was nobody to retaliate. Yeah, we shouldn't mess too much with our mother nature. But yeah, it does seem inevitable, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
At least for some, and probably for who knows what's going to happen. So on X, I don't know if it was private or public, the discussion of there being two countries left, the East and the West.
Mm-hmm.
And if not two countries, then two worlds. The world of the upper class, the uber wealthy, and the lower class, the rest of people. Just like every science fiction movie you've ever seen, just about. So is that what we're headed for? God only knows. What do you think?
Well, classes seem to have always existed, right?
Good point. That's true. And also in every culture, right?
Right. And so that makes me think that it's going to continue to exist. And
Nice. Yeah, okay. All right. So then
flat.
That's something to think about. That's something to think about. That's very good. I like that. It has existed in every culture that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's some primitive culture. I mean, we call them primitive. They may survive us, right? Where that's not true. And then there's some not so primitive cultures like the Amish. Although who knows what goes on inside there? Who knows what really goes on?
I mean, even in monkeys, there's hierarchy, right?
Well, that's okay. So that part we need to understand as humans. We need to understand 100%. There's two, for example, with birds. There's two kinds of birds. There's birds who are just like they have a flat organization, and then there's ones that have a dominance organization. And we should get out of birds, talk about mammals. So there's mammals that are communal, right? They live in herds and stuff like that. But even they have bulls. And then there's animals that have the dominance hierarchies. Now, dominance hierarchies over this scale of just sheer numbers, I think all bets are off. But in our nature, that's why we can't solve this war thing, right? Because we're not willing to acknowledge that we're animals. We have territorial drives, we have dominance drives, we have all kinds of hoarding drives for different reasons, etc. And so we're not going to solve war or even come close to the machines until we get our heads on straight and acknowledge that we're strapped to these animals. Mm-hmm. And so there, that's that. So that's part of the learning, right? Is learning that you are, in fact, underneath all of this nice dress and fancy words and haircut and all that stuff, you're a primate. And push come to shove, you act like a primate. And if people think they're invulnerable to that, they need to look at Germany, at least, or Russia, or China, or the U.S., frankly, in the last century. And until we do that, I don't think we're going to make any progress. And that's where the AIs may help us quite a bit, and among other things. The virtual reality is also going to help. I'm getting kind of, I don't know what I'm getting. Question?
That we are at time.
Okay. Yes, sir.
But thank you.
Thank you. Take care.